and welcome to Magic Numbers. This is episode number 188, and we're going to be diving early into Marvel Superheroes 17Lands draft data. And the new set is here. I didn't have time to play much. However, I have looked at the data and hopefully I have something to say about it. But I definitely had a lot of thoughts because as I was preparing, I don't know, for those of you that heard our set review, I think that we were spot on in terms of our evaluations. I think we both got into the idea that blue-white is the best thing to do, and that when attacking with one creature is not really the thing, but attacking with zero creature might be. And I think that this is the solution if you're going to be forced to draft red, is going to be that kind of thing. But I looked also a lot about how the set is built and how it's philosophically designed. And then I looked also at Strixhaven, and then I started thinking about it. And I think that we might be in a transition era of set design. And bear with me, this is the preamble. I think that what the designers of last couple of sets were thinking was how to change set design for limited so that it doesn't feel samey. Because this was one of the big complaints in the last couple of years, that the sets are good, but they all sort of feel similar to each other. There is the card file, and then based on the card file, you build a collection of cards that are very similar. You just change small parameters. It played well because that card file was pretty good, but it lacked this kind of spark, this kind of novelty of it. And then I looked at the comparison between 100 plus sorceries and instances in Strixhaven versus 44 instance and sorcery in this set, looking at giving all the removal tools you can physically get to a set so that maybe aggro can be stemmed, versus here not giving good low and aggressive creatures so that the games get prolonged not by removal but by board stalling. And I think that's what they're literally testing. And I had a big epiphany listening to the recent rough drafts from Sam Pratt, which I highly recommend. It's about flyers. And from the episode I did a couple of episodes ago when we had the guests that talked about the mulliganing data from 17Lands and their paper that they wrote about it. And one of the interesting conclusions from that paper was that if both players mulligan, the on-the-play advantage disappears. You go from 5 percentage points advantage of being on the play to basically zero. And that made me thinking, okay, so why would that be? And instant thing was that linking it to Sam's episode. And Sam talks in that episode why flyers are not as good as they used to be, mainly because the rate of general creatures has gone up and the rate of flying creature didn't follow just enough. So, you regularly get 2/3 2-drops or 3/2 2-drops in the set, but you never will get like a 3/2 flyer for 3 mana at common at least. And because of that, of course, flyers always have this cost of flying. The flying costs around 1 mana. And if they don't catch up with the rate of power and toughness with the ground creatures, and ground creatures are growing in the last couple of years, then of course they lag a bit behind, and because of that they become less powerful. And this has led me to the idea that this is also the reason for the increasing on the play advantage. Because if the rate of the creatures, the stats of the creatures increase in the last couple of years, 1 mana that you spent earlier means a bit more. Because it means a bit more, the games are more likely to snowball just a bit. And because they are more likely to snowball just a bit, obviously the person who is deploying the first pebble in the whatever avalanche we're talking about is going to get a slight advantage. So I think that design team is not stupid. They know that, and they are trying to experiment on how to bring back the balance to the sets without turning them into slop, like, oh, not slop, but like slogfest, like Khans of Tarkir, for example, in terms of how long the game lasts. They want to keep the games being decided relatively early without necessarily having to lead to the gameplay where everyone runs out of things and it's a top deck mode at some stage of the game. And I think that Strixhaven and Marvel Superheroes are two very different approaches to try to see if that works. And I'm going to be absolutely interested in how that's going to work out over the couple of years, because of course they are releasing those sets now. The information that they can use from this will be only utilized in 2028. So we're going to see if there are lessons learned. But I am foreseeing that there is going to be change in Limited, and they're going to expand their range of how they design sets. It's not longer going to be the paint by numbers kind of file that they have to fill in with the cards. There's going to be some of it, but there's going to be big non-cosmetic balance shifts in terms of what kind of nature does the set have. I think that this is what they're planning, and I might be wrong, but I have a good gut feeling that that's what they are, at least at the back of their head, is to increase the range of experiences for the Limited while keeping the things that work in the card file, while also trying to make sure that the advantage on the play and on the draw is somewhat minimized by some tools. And of course, because of those experiments, we are faced with an interesting set. I'm not saying it's perfect, because it's not. There is a big problem, big elephant in the room, and we're going to see it in a second. But it's interesting, and I'm very keen on seeing what weeks 2, 3, and 4 of this format are going to bring. Because right now we're still in this situation where you can basically force blue-white. Because people who are playing Magic occasionally or drafting occasionally are almost always active in those first days of the format. Because of that, people can get away with forcing blue-white. Blue-white is clearly the best deck. We're going to see it in a second. And this is a small blemish on the set. However, I think that there are options of doing things differently here. And it's going to be worth exploring them in the next couple of weeks, which I'm definitely going to do, so don't you worry about it. This episode, the early data, is always about the basics of the set. This is to lay the groundwork for what we're going to be experimenting with, because in order to experiment, there is, it's better to know what are the ground rules of the set and what is important. So first of all, I start with the general statistics of the set, and we can look at the color popularity rankings, and we see that in terms of the popularity, as I measure it so that accounts to 100%, which is not exactly what's going to happen in the set, but okay, just for the ease of imagination, we see that white and blue are definitely way overrepresented in what 17Lands users are playing. 25% of all the decks had white, 25% of all the decks had blue, and you would expect it to be around 20%. And this is far off from the previous sets. I think Strixhaven, the most played color at this stage, had like 22. Some sets like Final Fantasy had all the colors at 20%, which would be perfect if perfectly balanced if the format was perfectly balanced. And of course, because those two have 25%, that means that all the other ones are not having 25%. Black is the third most popular color at 17.6, although I don't think that's going to stick. Green is at 16.8 and red is at 15.2. Now, of course, the fact that people draft something doesn't mean that it's good. It usually is a good indicator that something is good from if you look at what 17Lands users are drafting. But sometimes they were off, sometimes they were off. Not every color, not every format 17Lands users in the first days managed to figure out what is good. But in this case, it sort of checks. So in terms of the win rates of of each color, white is first by quite far at 57.9, so 58% win rate for white decks generically, 57% win rate for blue decks. Average win rate is 56, and these are the only two colors that are above that average. Green is just below the average, so 55.7, and then we have 54 for black and 53 for red. This is a big disproportion. This is one of the biggest disproportions we've seen. So this set at least from the first days, is clearly not balanced. Part of that is because white and blue are still way too open. And I'm not talking about the 17Lands users, they identified it correctly, but the non-17Lands users are still letting blue and white cards circle around the table for no reason whatsoever. And also worth noting that green is significantly better than the 17Lands users are drafting it at. It is the fourth most drafted color. I think that, you know, if we look at those numbers, in order to balance the set, the draft proportions should be, people should draft a bit more white and blue, and green should be around 20%, and red should drop off, and black should drop off by quite a lot, and then we get to sort of closer to the equilibrium state. Okay. In order to see how the format looks like, it's always worth noticing what types of decks are people drafting. And this is a two-color format. 60% of the decks are pure two-color decks. 25% of the decks are two colors and a splash. So 85% of all the decks are two colors and variations thereof. And then there's 10% of three-color decks, 5% of three colors and splash, and around 1% of those multicolor decks. So that was the Secrets of Strixhaven. This one is different in a way that 50% of the decks are two colors and 40% are two colors and a splash, which makes it, you know, like 80-something% of the decks are two colored, which is similar to 88 or something like 86. 86% of the decks are two color splash, so same as in the previous set, but there is a lot more splashing in the two color decks. And I think that this is purely an effect of the basic land cyclers. They allow you to splash quite easily. I have played 6-7 drafts of the format so far. I trophied two of them, and both of those trophies were two color decks with a small splash, and it was so easy to splash. And then there is also around 10%. So the good question, Fundavong. Hybrid cards are counted correctly now in 17Lands, which means they will not cause that kind of confusion anymore. Because now it is that if your primary color is one of the colors in the hybrid card, it will not be counted as a splash. Okay, yeah, and there's around 10% of the three color decks, but they are so not 15 as in Secrets of Strixhaven, so there are significantly fewer of those. And there is around 3% of monocolor decks, when in Secrets of Strixhaven these were almost absent, which you can imagine with the density of multicolor cards in the Secrets of Strixhaven, there will not be any monocolor cards. In terms of win rates, monocolor decks, two color decks, and two colors and splash decks, roughly similar. 57% win rate for monocolor decks. Obviously, you cannot force a monocolor deck most of the time. You need to be presented with a lane that allows for that. And lots of those monocolor decks are actually black. And then there's 56.4 for both two color and two color with a splash, which is interesting. This shows you that the benefit you get from putting some powerful cards from other colors at least balance, not outweigh, but balance the disadvantages from putting another color in your deck. So these numbers suggest that you can splash relatively freely if you have good reasons for that splash. And then you see a big drop off, and the three color decks are at around 52.5, 53% win rate. So it doesn't seem that you want to be drafting three color decks. I'm sure that they will exist sometimes, but as a generic strategy, it doesn't seem like a good one. Okay, in terms of color pair popularity, and here is the answer why blue and white are the most popular colors. In a perfectly balanced format, you would expect 10% of each deck color combination. I'm looking only at the two color decks here. We have 23.1% of Azorius decks. I think the only format when I've seen numbers to this extent was AFR with black-red. And you have to go really far back in time to remember what AFR was. But in AFR, black-red was just so broken from the get-go. You could build like 4 black-red decks per pod and it was fine. So we might be in for something similar. I actually like AFR as a format. It was heavily imbalanced, but you can still have fun drafting it because different flavors of black-red actually added a bit of added some layers to how it was working. And only 2 other decks are above that 10% perfectly balanced value because Azorius accumulated so much of the deck equity. And we have Selesnya at 12.5% and Dimir at 11.2%. And then we have like Izzet at 9.5, Orzhov at 8.8, Rakdos and Simic at around 8, Boros around 7, 7.5, Golgari 6.5, and Gruul at 5%. So basically we're living in Azorius the format world right now. And the other question that normally is appearing at this stage of the seminar is, but okay, the fact that people draft 23% of Azorius doesn't mean that Azorius is the best thing to do. So the next graph is going to be same order of color pairs, but about the win rate and not the play rate. And we will see if Azorius, despite being drafted a lot, is still the best deck. And it is. It has 60% win rate, 60.5 to be specifically, which is 3 percentage points more than the second best deck, which is Selesnya, which was the second most popular. So the 2 most popular decks are also the 2 ones that are winning the most. And then it becomes a bit more complicated because 3 color pairs that are way behind everything, namely Dimir, Izzet, and Rakdos, so the Grixis color pairs, have low win rates, but are still drafted in this top 6 of the colors. So Dimir is at 54.7, Izzet is at 53.8, and Rakdos only at 50.8. So almost 10 percentage points split between the win rate of Azorius and win rate of Rakdos. And despite of that, those colors are still drafted quite high. I think that, Dimir Draw 2 is an appealing archetype. Izzet Artifacts is an appealing archetype, and Rakdos Villains is definitely an appealing archetype. So in the first days, people were trying. And I'm pretty sure that those numbers are going to balance out. And I'm going to, when we look at the data for the second week, which I always do, on how where the color pairs drafted, we'll see that Dimir, Izzet, and Rakdos are going to experience a big drop-off in how much they're drafted. And then with the bottom 4, so Orzhov is in the top 5 and has a decent 56% win rate. Simic is doing pretty well. This is the 3rd best color pair in terms of win rate at 57%. And Boros is exactly the same as Orzhov at 56.2. And then Golgari is the best non-white of the black color pairs at 55.3, so just below that average. And Gruul is at 53.4. Yeah, it's in the same cluster as the Grixis color pairs. So yeah, this is the big picture of it. First of all, Azorius is the most drafted by 17Lands users and still wins the most, which is not a great sign. Selesnya is quite good. Generally, Bunt colors perform the best because top 3 decks in the format so far are all in the Bunt color pairs. And then after that, we have a couple of other white decks, so Orzhov and Boros. And then Golgari is sort of behind the pack, driven mainly by its by Killmonger. El Grand Boa, hi. I don't know if you know Thierry, but Thierry is a pro player and also a big draft aficionado and streamer, unfortunately, in French, which might be a language barrier for some of you until we get Babelfish in our ear. And they claim Golgari is the best archetype. I don't believe in numbers now. And of course, that's a joke. I think that there is ways of building every color pair that will be relatively successful. It's going to be very hard with Rakdos. And you will need to pick your spots. But I definitely think that Golgari can be built as a strong deck. I think it's the most appealing black color pair for me, even though Orzhov has a slightly higher win rate. And we're going to be starting to figure those things out in week 2, probably. In week 1, we are going to focus on this baseline understanding of the format so that you can start discovering, because you cannot discover without a certain baseline. For now, the baseline is Azorius is probably very easy, which also means that a lot of win rates of Azorius cards are misleading because they are driven up by the rest of the cards that are busted. So today we're going to focus on identifying those cards that are truly, truly good. And there, we start with the color evaluation, and we're going to look at the 5 colors and the multicolor cards. We're going to look at the best bombs. So cards with, I arbitrarily set bombs as cards of high rarity that have a win rate of over 62%. Then we're going to look at top commons and top uncommons for each color, which will be just top 3 of each of them. Okay, the bombs. White has plenty of them. And we start with Captain Marvel, Earth Protector, the 5 mana 5/4 lifelinker with flash, flying, and then power up +1/+1 and gets indestructible counter. Yeah, I did it specifically, the higher rarity card criterion, not to talk about commons when I'm talking about bombs, because commons are not bombs. Yeah, maybe Imperial Oath was maybe the only common I could possibly qualify as a bomb. They're just very, 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 very good basic bricks of the deck, but not bombs, surely. Captain Marvel, yeah, I mean, this card is ridiculous, can be dealt with, but if it's not dealt with, then it just finishes the game very, very quickly. So yeah, I mean, it has over 70% win rate. 70% is a lot of win rate. Very few cards reach it, and it's a bit helped by the fact that there is a slightly elevated win rate for 17Lands players in this format, mainly because 17Lands players are more engaged and they figured out. Oh yeah, Chrysalis was a bomb. That's true. Sick boy. Yeah, but 17Lands players are more tuned to the format, so they know that blue-white is better and they can force it, and therefore their win rate is elevated. But still, 70%, very few cards can achieve that kind of number. And then number 2 bomb is a polar opposite of Captain Marvel, which is a splashy, basically 7-drop. Here we have a 2-drop in Agent Phil. I listened to some Saffron Olive video, and he called that card Agent Phil Collins all the time, and I cannot get it out of my head now. Watch my Twitter soon to see what I will produce out of it. But Phil Coulson, 2 mana 2/2 vigilance, and you can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each other hero you control. Heroes are good, and if you give them that kind of support, they are broken, and Agent Phil Coulson is just a 6/6 card if it doesn't get killed instantly on side. Then we have Avengers Assemble, 5 mana flash enchantment. It's a double anthem for heroes, so they get +2/+2. And because that's not enough, at the beginning of each end step, if you attacked with the hero or just entered the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Because why not? Why wouldn't you? And we have more. There's more bombs. These are top 3 cards with the win rate over 62, but there are 3 more. By the way, the white is very good in female representation in the set, because we have Jennifer Walters and Monica Rambeau, not Ramboa, Rambeau. The 2 transforming double-faced cards. And Jennifer Waters is just a 2 mana 2/3. Opponents cannot cast spells on your turn, and you can transform it into a 6/6 with the same ability, and also whenever a creature you control is dealt damage, then She-Hulk, as the other side is called, will deal that much damage to any target. This is like a sick card, very hard to deal with. And Monica Rambeau is 3 mana 3/3 flying prowess, which is good already on its own. I mean, I wouldn't mind a 3/3 flying prowess, but you can flip her or cast her for the backside, and it's a 4/4 flying prowess, also hexproof, just because you don't want to kill your photon. And then also has, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. It's a very, very wrong card. It's very hard to kill. And we have the last one, Captain America Wings of Freedom, 3 mana 3/1 flying first strike ward 1. and whenever it attacks each other hero you control gets +X until end of turn, where X is its toughness. So yeah, I don't know why there's hexproof on Photon. It must be for the flavor and because they just wanted to frustrate people. All those cards are absolutely broken, by the way. But it's not the bombs that are so atrocious in white, actually. The bombs are, yeah, I mean, no, they are atrocious, but the commons are also atrocious. And we have Hero in Training. It's a 3, and this is the worst part. It's like, what's the best card in this set? Well, it's not the superhero, it's the Hero in Training. It's the apprentice hero. 3 mana 2/2. When it enters, draw a card. If you control another hero, you gain 2 life. So this is something between Inspiring Overseer and there was I think it was in AFR, there was a 2/1 that enters, draw a card, and then you gain 1 life. And that was the best common in that set specifically. Was it AFR? Potentially, or maybe it was some other Dungeons and Dragons set. Anyway, this one gains you potentially 2 life, has 1 more point of toughness, and yeah, the only drawback is that you won't always gain the 2 life. However, like 90% of the time you do gain 2 life, which is amazing. Hero Training is a broken card. It currently stands at, and I need to, of course, look at the numbers, 62.6% win rate. For a common, this is not correct. Commons should not be that kind of power. That should not have that kind of power. Common number 2, and also common number 3 in the whole set is Web Up. It's an Oblivion Ring, basically. It's a reprint from Spider-Man set, if you don't remember. And common number 3 in white, which is common number 4 in the whole set, is Murdoch's Crusade. And this card maybe is flying a bit under your radar, because I don't think every person knows that this card is really, really, really strong. That's a 2 mana with Teamwork 4, and it has choose 1, either exile target creature with toughness 4 or greater, which is very important because in this set, creatures have bigger butts than, I don't know, I mean, if the toughness is butt, then what is power face? They have bigger butts than faces. Or you can exile target enchantment with mana value 4 or greater. Now, there are not many of those, but those that are there are quite powerful, as we're going to see in a second. So I found it that, for example, my last trophy deck, I had a Murdoch's Crusade, and I was keeping it in my hand all the game when I was playing against the white-red deck, because I knew that I'm losing the game definitely if they cast the white-red saga. And then, of course, if they're playing white-red, there is quite a good chance that they are playing the white-red saga, which we're going to talk in a second. So I won 3 games when opponents cast the red-white saga against me in this particular run, because every single time when they cast it, I just like exiled with Murdoch's Crusade on the next turn, got back my creatures and moved on with my life. So the second mode is going to be used maybe 5% of the time, but when you're using it, it's probably the best thing you can be physically doing in that game, and it's going to be a game-winning play. So that's quite important. Top uncommons, and again, we're talking not only top uncommons in the color pair, but also some of the top uncommons in the set. All 3 of those are in top 10. We have Political Triumph, white for a plan. That's the only plan that works, basically. Whenever a creature you control enters, scry 1 and put a plan counter on this enchantment. And when the 4th plan counter is put onto this enchantment, sacrifice it, draw a card, and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And, you know, like, I've had opponents just building up the plan, Political Triumph, and then as their 4th creature, the casting Okoye, which brings 2 1/1s with it, and then getting counters on everything. And you're just like, how am I winning that game even? Is there any way? And the answer is no, there was no way. It's very powerful when you can cast it on turn 1, And if you draw it later, pretty serviceable as well. So that's why it's there. Then we have Agent Maria Hill. Actually, should have been probably as the second one if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's 1 mana 2/1, and when it becomes tapped to pay a teamwork abilities, you put a +1/+1 counter on her and you draw a card. And activating it just one is just like backbreaking. If you activate multiple times, very good in white-black, by the way, because of that. And we have another agent and another female agent also, Agent 13 Sharon Carter. That's a 3 mana 3/2, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, you investigate. So if you have like anything that is evasive, just gonna make clues. When you have any disposable thing, clues. When you have shield spike at the equipment, you attack with a bigger thing and force them to do city blocks. It's quite powerful, and especially in a set where card advantage is not that easy to come by, this one can generate quite a lot of it. Okay, so that covers the white. Then we have the second color, which is also the second best color, and another color that has plenty of bombs. And the first bomb is Leader Super Genius. 4 mana, including 2 blue, 1/3, which doesn't sound like an amazing card. Oh, for a 4 mana 1/3. But the ability that it has is just like wins games on the spot. And it says if a creature of you control would connive, instead you draw a card and then you connive. So you draw 2 cards and discard 1. Which is a big improvement from looting to cataloging. And then, of course, at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control connives, which means you always connive every turn. And first turn you play it, you will connive. So you basically, it sort of is a 2/4 potentially that drew you a card for 4 mana, which is all of a sudden a very good card. Word of warning: this is a card that in the long games, if you don't have good ways of winning, can cost you a game. Because my first 2 games of this format was game 1, I milled myself with Leader because I couldn't find a lethal attack. Game 2, my opponent cast Leader and then cast a spell that doubles all their creatures, and the copies are non-legendary. And they milled themselves out so dramatically with 2 leaders on board, because when you think about it, with 2 leaders, you draw 3 cards for each connive trigger, and you get 2 connive triggers on your turn before you attack. So my opponent cast the spell, went to combat, that's 6 cards a turn, 6. Because they draw 3 from the first connive, 7, okay, I know what you mean. So 3 from the first connive, 3 from the other connive. It's I basically, and they played something that when your creature dies, it comes back to the battlefield as a hero. If your villain dies, it comes back as a hero. So in the end I killed them by blocking their card that connives on ETB, and they just run out of time. They didn't run out of card. They would have killed me if the game could have lasted a turn or 2 longer, but you don't have that many cards in a limited deck to make the game last a turn or 2 longer. That was a fun game. So my first 2 games ended up in getting self-milled by Leader. Then we have Wondrous Wasp, which is not surprising this card is good, because it looks great. But I'm just a bit surprised just how good it is. It has currently, I have to look at it, color blue. It has currently 64.5% win rate. And it's, of course, it's a great 2-drop. And as Thierry says, there's not that many good 2-drops. But late in the game, the ability to tap something and remove reach from it or remove flying from it when you're playing sort of blue flyers deck is very useful. Because what Wasp does is that it's a flash creature with flying. When it enters, you tap something, and that creature loses all abilities for as long as the Wondrous Wasp remains on the battlefield. Switching off abilities of creatures in this format is actually almost as good as killing them, because a lot of those creatures, like, you know, leader, we've seen, like a bunch of other things, they live and die based on their abilities. So Wasp, removing the abilities, it doesn't tap the creature permanently, but the abilities are gone until the Wasp dies. And you don't want to point one of your precious removals, that are not many in the set, into a 2/1 flyer. But in the end, you will have to, because the loss of abilities is so annoying. Okay. Then we have Bruce Banner. That's a blue for a 1/1, and it has XX, draw X cards, activate only as a sorcery. And it has a second side, which is green, green, red, red 2. And I don't know which side is having this high win rate. I assume the blue part and not the Gruul part, because Gruul is not doing very well. It seems to me like an engine that draws you many cards during the game. You can get low on resources in these games, and restocking your hand with Bruce Banner is a good recipe of winning. And of course, it doesn't help that you're restocking it with the best cards in the format, because you're already playing blue. Yeah, I don't know if anyone cast the backside either, so it's hard for me to say. And then we go to the blue top commons, and we also get some phenomenal commons in blue. Trickster Stratagem is very close to Hero in Training, and that's a 4-mana, put something second from the top or at the bottom of the library, and one of your creatures connives. This card, and it's a sorcery, the detraction from the usual instant. This card is absolutely backbreaking. Again, it's picked a bit lower than the other most busted commons. It has around 5, which means that it's very hot property. You should be picking this card very highly. You can play multiple copies of it, no problem. It's very powerful. It does amazing things. And if you are doubting its power, Shield Deployment Drone is the second best blue common, and that's a 2/2 with flying that when it enters makes a 1/1. So basically an artifact version of Preening Champion. To be better than the Preening Champion, Stricter Stratagem must be really, really strong. So don't ignore that card at all. And the last one we have is We Say the Nay. For some weird reason, there is Doctor Strange on it, even though Doctor Strange does not appear as a card in this particular set, so I don't know what's going on in there. It's a quench. It's a 2-mana, counter something unless its controller pays 2, but you can teamwork it for 2, and then they have to pay 4. This is a basic counter spell most of the game. It's super hard to play around it, and because of that, the card is very, very good indeed. In terms of uncommons, well, blue won the lottery. Justice, Vance Astrovik, 3-mana, 2/2, flying, Manowar. It cannot bounce tokens, but if you bounce something of your own, you also get a token on a counter on it, so it becomes a 3/3. Like a play pattern of playing Justice, Vance Astrovik, and bouncing back your own creature that is under frozen in the ice, which is the blue sort of top removal, and getting a 3/3 and rebuying your creature. That's just such a backbreaking play. But of course, you can also bounce one of the creatures that the opponent has, force them to recast them, which is particularly backbreaking in a format where there's a lot of 4/5 drops where opponent needs to untap with them. Well, they can't untap with them if you bounce them to their hand. Yeah, and then 26Lands in the chat also mentions, yeah, you can also return your Hero in Training by Justice Vance Astrovik and get some more card advantage while having a solid 3/3 flyer. 3/3 flyer for 3, as I said already when we discussed, what's her name? Rambo, Monica Rambo. Is a powerful stat line, and then Justice can be exactly that at uncommon. Card has a ridiculous win rate. It's absolutely sickening, 65%. So better than the Wondrous Wasp, by the way. And only slightly below Leader. Was it Leader? Yeah, Leader. Then we have Falcon Winged Wonder. 5 mana, 3/4 flyer, and when it enters, you make a 1/1 bird scout creature token. So 4/5 of stats with flying across 2 bodies, and the 1/1 also has whenever it attacks surveil, so some card selection on it. This is a lot of stats, and it's always good that it's over 2 bodies, so even if they kill it, you still have something left over. And trust me, a lot of the time when I was facing that card, I was really split between killing Falcon and killing the 1/1, because the 1/1 is super annoying. Getting card selection in this set, Wunderwunk, you've never seen the 1/1 attack, maybe because you always play blue and have ton of flyers, or because you always play green and have 5/5 reach all over the board. I have seen it attack a lot of the time. I attacked with it and it was fun. And sometimes I even suicide attacked because I needed to surveil, basically. Yeah, so you're the blue player. Of course, you've never seen it attack. Then we have maybe a bit of a surprise high win rate card in Stature. Stature is at 61% win rate currently. And it's a blue for a 1/1. Can't be blocked if her power is 1 or less, and has power up for X blue blue, put X +1/+1/+1 counters on Stature. So you cast it on turn 1 and you start chipping in damage. Then slowly chip in the damage. When the opponent goes to 7 and you have some mana on the board, this will often become a number 1 priority to kill, because they can always go attack with Stature, after block, power up, make it into a 6/6, bam, smash face. Which means that they will often have to target a removal at your 1-drop. And removal is scarce in this format, really scarce. So killing a 1/1 with very precious removal is a big loss of tempo, of resources. You're falling so much behind. But yet you have to do it because there is always the threat of activation. And this card on threat of activation alone is amazing. Plus, you have cards like Agent 13 Sharon Carter that accompany it very well, because you just chip in with the 1/1, deal 1 damage, and just get clues from that, which is great. So yeah, lots of small things that make this card way better than you would expect. Okay, black, as I said, black is not doing particularly well in this format, but it's not because of the lack of bombs, and not at all. We have 3 cards over 62% win rate, despite color not doing very well. Dr. Doom, it's a broken card, 6 mana for a 3/3. When it enters, you make 2 3/3 artifact creatures on top of that. So basically 6 mana for 9/9 of stats across 3 bodies. As long as you control an artifact creature or a plan, Dr. Doom has indestructible. So, one of those bodies is indestructible. And at the beginning of your end step, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Hey, it also gives me a card advantage. Great. Now, this card is absolutely broken and is one of those really good reasons. Really good reasons to play black if you open Dr. Doom. And we have MODOK, which is not far off from the power of Dr. Doom in terms of the win rate. 5 mana 2/2, flying lifelink. It has pay 3 life connive, only activated during your turn. So lifelink will get the life back if you grow MODOK and make it bigger. And this is not the only thing that it does. It also has a static ability. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And this is like an extremely annoying ability, giving -1/-1 to everything on board of the opponent. Normally it will enter and already instantly kill at least a couple of tokens or something. And then later, double blocking just doesn't work anymore. Big things all of a sudden become medium-sized things. You're getting so much ahead of it. So MODOK is very strong. And then there's the last one, Electra, Daughter of the Hand. 4 mana for a 3/3 with Sneak for 1 black. And I did use the Sneak a couple of times, honestly. It was useful. And then it has an ETB, and not a bad ETB. When it enters, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. So quite a neat ability. 3/3 Faceless Butcher, sort of. it does kill 86% of creatures in the set on face value. So that's quite a lot. The problem of black is not the bombs. The problem of the black is the creatures. Look at the top black commons, and creatures at common specifically. Black's top commons are Cruel Alliance, the removal spell that can exile something and you gain 3 life if you cast it with teamwork. Hour of Defeat, 4 mana, destroy target creature, and Hydra Infiltration. And this one is maybe surprising, but it's not because the card is so amazing, it's because the other cards are just so bad. When this enchantment enters, target opponent discards 2 cards. Whenever creature you control attacks alone, target opponent, well, you drain 1 basically. Again, another card that neat with stature. Now your stature is basically a 2/1 half-life linker when you attack with Hydra Infiltration. And I think that big part of it is getting rid of those 2 cards. As I said, card advantage is not easy to come by in this format. And Hydra Infiltration sometimes will pick very juicy targets if you cast it on the right time. And I think that a lot of the time, black decks should lean on their hand disruption capability. I'm pretty sure that if there was some sort of ravenous villain rats in this format, black would have been actively better. But this brings me to my sort of mini soapbox moment. And I've had that soapbox moment before. It's not the first time I'm doing it. I maybe had a rant on Twitter about it some couple of years ago. Maybe I think it was Lost Caverns of Ixalan or something. The design team should reevaluate their color balance philosophy. It's been for years and years that they were sort of, not without specifically saying, but they were working under the assumption that black gets the best removal, therefore black creatures can be crap. It's not true. It just doesn't work like that anymore. Black removal never compensates for the quality of the creatures, and the creature quality is not good enough. Same with red. Red's creature quality is not good enough. And meanwhile, white gets best creatures, and when you look at it, also best removal, because web up is way better than any of those. Yeah. Start designing good creatures. What would it kill them to make the Hydra Troopers, instead of making them 3/2 either mill or make a villain? Why would it kill them to make it a 3/2 pay a life, draw a card? It would have been instantly a much better situation for the black. Would it hurt them to put some sacrifice outlets if they make a 1/1 that dies into a 2/1? I mean, what is the idea of some of those creatures? I don't know. And they set after set, they are building this 3 mana 2/2 that maybe over several turns will grow in black if something dies, or if you, I don't know, discard a card or something equally arcane. And those things never work, never have worked any single time. So start thinking, please, design team, on making black creatures that are on rate good. Just good. Good sets where black was fine were the ones where black got a 2 mana 2/2 lifelinker with upside or something like that. Or a good flyer. So please, start thinking about it. Because if you're going to continue like that, we're going to go to next set where black is a non-player. Yeah, Lord of the Ring was pretty good because it had Nazgul at uncommon. Oh yeah, or yeah, like the Golem's Torment was a good creature, 4 mana 2/2 that has the discard card. And talking about which, here is Claw Sonic Subjugator as one of the best uncommons in black. Best black uncommon, Dark Deed. The 2 mana gives something -4/-4. Now this is a good removal. And of course becomes the best black card. And then we have Madame Mask, which is a 5 mana 3/2, and when it enters, it connives. And when you draw a second card each turn, you create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace, which means that unless they kill it in response to the trigger, Madame Mask will be a 3/2 that potentially 4/3 that comes into play with a 2/1 menace creature. And this is something more like what I'm talking about. A proper creature that puts a lot of stats on board, gives you some card selection at the same time, has an ETB. This is the kind of thing that we're looking for in black. Now, obviously, this card is too broken for common, but this is what we would want to see. And another one, and I think that this is a design that should become a staple of black. This is the black version of Manowar, Claw, Sonic Subjugator. 3 mana, 2/2. When it enters, target player reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to 1 plus the number of creature cards in your graveyard. You choose one of them, that player discards that card. This is how I envisioned the Manowar. We had this thing in Bloomborough when there was a Lizard Menace 2/2, and if opponent was dealt damage this turn, you could choose a card from their hand, otherwise they just discarded the card. Great card, played very well. I think that this design should put that kind of card designed more often. Okay. Red is the weakest color. However, there is one bomb in red, and it's Thor, God of Thunder. At least they hit it on the right hero. Thor is a 5 mana 5/5 flyer, and when it enters, you may exile equipment, instant, or sorcery from your graveyard. Until end of your next turn, you may play that card, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Thor will deal damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. Imagine this card in Secrets of Strixhaven. Would be pretty strong. Anyway, card is broken, just play it, whatever. But the problem starts again at commons. Lightning Strike has like 56% win rate, which is, full 6 percentage points below Hero in Training. It's a solid card, but it doesn't have any accompaniment. When you look at the red commons in the set, which I'm doing right now, we have, the Lightning Strike doesn't have 56, it has 55.5, and Hulk Smash also has 55.5. And then we have Crimson Operative, a 4 mana 3/2 that sort of draws you a card and then has prowess. But this one is already at 54.5. It's a good card, don't get me wrong, and I'm pretty sure that the numbers for that card are going to go up. And this is exactly the kind of a creature I would love to have. But the problem is with the rest of the stuff. Like, where is the other? Like, what is the best 2-drop in red? The best 2-drop in red is Hydra Assault Robot, a 1/3 with 53% win rate. And I'm pretty sure that there is a deck with Hydra Assault Robot that can be built. But it's not an obvious thing to do, and it's definitely not Aggressor. Kunlun Warrior, 2 mana 2/2 with Ramage. This is not good enough compared to what the other colors are getting. And indeed, it has 52% win rate. There is a bunch of that missing, and it doesn't get any better at uncommon level. So this is another part of the problems of red, that there is just very few cards that I would be happily playing at uncommon level. Best uncommon in red, Jessica Jones, a 3 mana 2/3, and you can tap her to put a stun counter on her, and then exile top X cards of your library, where X is Jessica Jones's power. And you may play those cards only on the turn that it happens. This is the only good uncommon, 58%, which is not even close to the top uncommons in other colors that we discussed. Even in black, like I think Dark Deed and Madame Mask and Claw are better cards than Jessica Jones. I'm sure that they destroyed red, apart from maybe 3 cards that will make sure that Izzet is still the most busted thing to do in standard or something. And then we have like Photon Blast Barrage and Traktusk, which are Traktusk, which are at around 55% win rate. Oh no, sorry, Traktusk is 53.6 even. Photon Blast Barrage is 56. Yep, that card is fine, and there's many combos with that card, and I think that's its salvation. But then the rest is like 53, 53, 52. It's a cumulative underpowering of all those cards that we see in red. And that's the unfortunate thing. I would like Loki in control decks. I just don't think that control decks are a thing in this format. There is not enough removal, not enough card advantage, not enough card selection. And yeah. Photon Blast plus Hawkeye 4, great. And Photon Blast plus Red Hulk, great. All those things are great. But you have to keep in mind that not always you will be able to assemble the combo. And yeah, and we have things like Hex Magic with 45% or Death to Our Enemies, the plan with 47%. Because in order to make Death to Our Enemies work, you need to cast 4 non-creature spells, and this set has very few non-creature spells. That's the problem that you get there. Yeah, if you get 8 rares, you can build maybe a good control deck. Okay, green. Interestingly, the third best color in the set has no bombs that fulfill my criteria. 0. No. And that shows me you don't need bombs always. Green has a good common and good collection of commons. Undercover Skrull, the mana dork for 2 mana that can turn into a 3/3, or as I call it, the second coming of Werebear, and that ages me very much, is currently at around 59%, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just checking. 59% win rate. Card is great. It allows you to play a bit more adventurous decks, splash here and there to put some power into those decks. Quickly turns from a mana dork into a beater. Weirdly is a merfolk if you need those kind of synergies from time to time. And I mean, if it's big, obviously. So yeah, great card all around. And I think most importantly, it curves you from 2 to 4. And I think that this format, 2 to 4, is a very big game. Because a lot of good cards cost 4. Like Pet Avengers, the third best green common, at currently at 58% win rate. In between, we have Go Nuts, the 1 mana fight spell with teamwork that can also put a counter on something. And Pet Avengers is a symptomatic card for what I think is important in green. I've trophied just now with the white, green, blue deck. I mean, there are a couple of blue cards in there. I put one Trickster Stratagem because the card was strong and I lacked a bit of interaction, and was almost free because I had 3 Land Cyclers. But I think that the core of this deck was 2 copies of Pet Avengers and 1 copy of She-Hulk and 2 copies of Undercover Skrull. A lot of those blue-white decks, they have those heroes in training and whatnot. Those cards are not going to go through on my boards when I'm playing green. So their plan B is flying. And Pet Avengers and She-Hulk, the best green uncommon, both have reach. That's how I won those games. Basically by clogging the board with reach creatures and by putting Shield Spike at the equipment that unfortunately we didn't have time to showcase, and we won't have time to showcase in this episode, but it's a 1 mana equipment, sort of sword short type. When you attack alone, you untap the attacking creature and scry 1, and also the creature gets +1/+1. So what I did was I played my 3 reach creatures, nothing with flying could attack me, attacked with one of them as the only creature I attack with, and gave my opponent an option. Do you block with 3 creatures and hope that I don't have take up the shield? Or do you let it in and I will slowly outgrind you while you cannot do anything because my reach creatures are keeping me alive? So there you go. Yeah, She-Hulk also has the ability to destroy artifact and enchantment. And this is always relevant. I don't remember a single game when I didn't destroy something. Even if it was a 2/2 flyer, even if it was a Herbie, I still get something. And of course, if you go to the late game, you can just cast She-Hulk and not power her up, and just keep up the mana, and then if they cast Web Up, you destroy it in response to the trigger and move on with your life. Then we have Khazar, which is a busted card. That's a 5 mana 3/2 that comes with a 2/2. The 2/2 grows with the game. Look, can you imagine printing something like that in black? Can you imagine an outrage of black getting a card with the similar power level? No, because it never will happen. Black will never get an uncommon that is that kind of powerful. Yeah. And last we have Punishing Punch. 3 mana instant speed bite spell that bites double bite. That costs 2 less to cast if there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard, and that sometimes will swing the game so badly when you just leave 1 mana up and then completely blow up some kind of an attack or whatever. Okay, that covers the main colors. Now we can move to the multicolors, and there are 7 bombs in multicolor spells. Number 1, the Superhero Civil War. This card is 70% win rate. It's absolutely broken. You should be playing with it. And as I said, I had 2 trophies in my 6 drafts. One of them had the Superhero Civil War. It's funny because in that draft, my first pick was this Avengers: Under Siege. And my second pick was Superhero Civil War, and then I had to decide which one of those I'm going to put in my deck. And it turns out that I was playing the Superhero Civil War because white was open. You steal 2 creatures, you pump your team on second chapter, and then you use one of your stolen creatures to kill something or trade something that opponent controls. Just like very, very good card. However, my second draft, I played against 3 decks with the Superhero Civil War, and I won with all 3 of them because every single time I had either Web Up or Murdoch's Crusade in my hand, ready to deal with the Superhero Civil War. And then here we can put another soapbox moment for me. I think that this format, a lot of it is about ignoring threats. I am very patient in this format before I kill something. I am holding up my removal, keeping it, waiting patiently, and only when I see something that absolutely threatens me very quickly and rapidly will I use my removal to kill it. And Superhero Civil War is definitely that type of card, because if an opponent casts it, steals my 2 creature, maybe gets some kind of a chip and attack, whatever, but I destroy it next turn, I get back my creatures, I basically got away scot-free. If you can't kill it, you're dead. So this is the big difference. And if I use my Web Up on some 3-drop that will chip me 9 damage or whatever, I'm not going to have that Web Up anymore. I'd rather take 9 damage and keep my options open. A lot of the time, it's how you manage your removal and whether you're ready for the thing that really matters. And I think that not so many things in this set really matter. You look, the hero in training has 62% win rate. It's not something I'm going to use removal on, obviously. Superhero Civil War, yes, I want to kill it on side. Okay, then we have Avengers: Under Siege. That's Rakdos Saga. And that also is like one of the reasons to be Rakdos. Its first chapter is you make 2/1 black villain creatures with menace, so the usual villain tokens. Second chapter, it deals 2 damage to each non-villain creature and each opponent. Avengers: Under Siege, that's what the card's name is. I read it correctly, no? Okay. And third chapter is you create a treasure token for each villain you control. Which can be relevant because if you remember the... you don't remember because it was not seen. There is a 1/3 that pings opponent for... did I not show it anywhere here? No. There's a 1/3 common that whenever an artifact or a villain enters, pings for 1. So yeah, if you make multiple treasures, you can basically ping opponent out of the game. Yeah, the 1/3 robot, exactly. So this is a mini combo with that. I played my pre-release as a 2-headed giant, and boards were very clogged, and my opponent resolved Avengers: Under Siege, then made 10 treasure tokens with the robot on board. So it was not fun for us, I can tell you that. Hydra Assault Robot, thank you very much. The next one we have is the Coming of Galactus. So top 3 multicolor cards are sagas, which I think is a big flavor win for the set designers, because the sagas are supposed to be cool and they are also powerful because 3 of them are in the top multicolor bombs. The Coming of Galactus is 5 mana. Start with destroying non-land permanent, and then you have 2 times when Silver Surfer comes and screams Galactus is coming, and then you lose 2 life because of the scream or whatever. And then the 4th chapter, Galactus is come, and then you create a 16/16 black elder alien with flying trample, and whenever it attacks, destroy target land, because you really need to destroy that land when you attack with the 16/16 flying trampler. It does take long, but you buy yourself a bit of time because you destroy something in the beginning. And of course, it's a lot of flavor in there because Galactus has to destroy the world. So in total, technically, that saga deals 20 damage. Yeah, and win rate is high, so the card is clearly working. And then we have Wolverine, the first non-saga thing from Multicolor. And it's a Wolverine, which is also great because everyone likes Wolverine. Cool. 4 mana, 3/5, haste. When it enters fights with up to 1 target creature, and if a damage will be dealt to Wolverine, instead that damage is dealt, but all the other damage already dealt to him is healed. Which is, I think, first time in Magic that the word healed is used in this context, which means basically damage is removed. So you cannot kill it with like, I block with the 2/2 and then I lightning strike it. No, because the lightning strike will trigger the cleaning of the 2 damage that was already added. What is the hypocrisy of Galactus, Happy Porcupine? Tell me. Okay, and then we have 2 other legends. The Mighty Thor Jane Foster. That's a 3 mana Azorius 3/3 flyer. And I think that that's a big part of it crossing the 62% win rate. It is an Azorius card. That's probably like a plus 3-4 percentage points bonus. But 3/3 flyer for 3 is already good. And whenever equipment you control enters, draw a card. And then when Jane Foster attacks, she exiles up to 1 target non-token artifact or creature and return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner control. So you can blink something of yours and get the ETB, or you can blink something of theirs and remove it from combat because why not? Fun part of it is, of course, if you have Mjolnir together with the Jane Foster, you can blink Mjolnir. It enters, deals 4 damage to something, and you also draw a card because equipment you control entered. So if you can combine a rare and a mythic into a combo, that's the one. And Cloak and Dagger Entwined is an Orzhov rare, human hero, Death Touch, lifelink 2/2, and when it enters, choose target opponent and up to 1 creature they control. Then you look at the hand of the opponent and you can choose something from hand or that creature that you targeted before seeing the hand, and you exile it until Cloak and Dagger leave the battlefield. I mean, 3 mana 2/2 Death Touch, lifelink that kills one of the creature temporarily. Brilliant. So yeah. And last in the bomb section, something that I think I listened to the... I'm pretty sure that Marshall and Luis are going to have to recount because the limited resources set review called it Build Around C, when in fact it's just a straight up A-. Is Vision Quest, red and blue X spell, sorcery. It has search your library and or graveyard for an artifact creature card with mana value X or less and put it in the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters. If X is 4 or greater, it gains haste until end of turn, and then shuffle, obviously. So think of it how it works. Let's say we have Herbie, which is a 4 mana 2/1 flyer. I can pay 6 mana to find Herbie from my deck, put it on the battlefield, put 4 +1/+1 counters on it, and give it haste. Then, of course, I get the enter the battlefield ability of Herbie, which is draw a card and put the land on the battlefield. And then I swing with the 6/5 flyer. So it's a 6 mana, 6/5 haste flyer, draw a card, put a land. Someone in the chat said it was good with MODOK. Yeah, and with MODOK, you can cast it for 7 mana, and then you have a 7/7 lifelink MODOK that makes their whole board smaller and also has the connive possibilities that you can use to increase the size of it. Any creature, even like a 2-drop 1/3, for 6 mana is going to turn into a 5/7 haste. War Machine, another good example of a creature. There's plenty of things that are so good. Maybe potentially the only thing is the 2 mana 2/3 Defender that is not very good with Vision Quest. The point is that the cost of playing that card is very small. Even if I'm playing like a blue-white deck, I'm very happy if I have War Machine and one of the Preening Champions, whatever, shield deployment drones. I'm very happy to splash Vision Quest because a 6 mana 6/6 shield deployment drone is just broken. It's a great card. So don't think of it as a sort of like a payoff for playing artifacts, because you don't need more than 2 artifacts to play this card. It gets stuff from the graveyard. It gets stuff from the library. You are going to be able to engineer in a situation when it's good. Yeah, 1 shield drone and Herbie is all you need. Iron Man also draws you a card if it attacks. Yeah, and great. And it all works with those. And there are some weird artifact creatures in the set that you might not expect. Well, yeah, I mean, Crimson Operative is a bit on the obvious side, but MODOK is definitely something that maybe you won't be thinking. War Machine. Viv Vision is also great with that, because you also are going to get a card of it. So, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, another interesting one is Super Adaptoid that you can get with it. That's a creature that starts getting abilities of other creatures on board. So normally it will get probably flying, and a lot of times it will get lifelink. And if you have like Take Up the Shield, it will often get indestructible. So yeah, a lot of use of that card. It's very good. Oh, Regular Vision is also pretty nice, yeah. Okay, and then we have 20 multicolor uncommons, and I'm going to look only at the top 10 of them just to see where the power is at. And I'm super happy that I had it right, because that means that my evaluation skill, despite someone, you know who you are, I don't know, I actually don't know who that was, telling me in my, after this they were spoiled, I made a quick Twitter thread when I said, oh, Killmonger looks like the most powerful of them. And obviously someone wrote, nah, that card looks trash. Well, it's not trash. Killmonger is the top uncommon in the multicolor cards. 2 black-green for a 3/3. When it enters, you sacrifice something to destroy a non-land permanent an opponent controls. Important that it's a permanent. You can kill the web up. You can kill a bunch of other things. And also, when you have 2 creatures in the graveyard, it becomes a 5/4. It's a very strong card. It's a reason to be black-green, honestly. Skrull's best friend. That's true. Second best multicolor card, Spider-Woman, Secret Agent. 4 mana 1/4 that permanently locks something down, and it can't get untapped, that creature. Very good, and also the flash on it is pretty important. It has 60% win rate. Number 3 is Captain America, Living Legend. That's the 1 white-blue for a 3/4 vigilance. And whenever creature you control becomes tapped during your turn, remember that. If it's the first time that creature has become tapped this turn, untap it. Good that they gave the once per turn, because it would be infinite mana with Skrull. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if they forgot to put it? And you go turn 2 Skrull, turn 3 Captain America, million mana. During your turn is actually important, because sometimes people will like, oh, I have my Phil Collins, and I'm going to use it twice at the end of their turn. No, that doesn't work. You only use it once during the end of their turn. But what you can do is you can use it once in your turn, keep it untapped, and then use it second time at the end of their turn. But yeah, keep in mind, only works on your turn. Then we have US Agent Johnny Walker. It's also like, in Poland, when a politician writes something weird on Twitter in the late evening hours of Friday or Saturday, they always say that his account was taken over by Agent Johnny Walker. And I'm pretty sure that that's what it's referring to. 4 mana 3/2 enters, you create a sturdy shield that gives +1/+2. So it's basically a 4 mana 4/4, and Yeah, like whiskey. Yeah, obviously they insinuate that they were drunk. So yeah, and a 4/4 that sort of dies into a sturdy shield that is left behind, a +1/+2 equipped to equipment, which is a great 2-for-1 really, because you have to deal with the 4/4, and then you have to deal with the shield because everything that they have is going to be slightly bigger. It can also be sometimes Agent Jack Daniels, by the way. These are interchangeable, but I don't think that Jack Daniels is a magic card, but Johnny Walker sort of is. And these are the top four. These four that I mentioned: Killmonger, Spider-Woman, Captain America, and John Walker. These are slightly above the rest. Then we have a big chase group of things that are sort of fine. We have Abomination, the 4/4 that for 7 mana can fight, get slightly bigger and fight something. Black Panther, 4/4 that whenever a non-token hero enters, you can make a soldier or pump the team. Titania, 3 mana 5/5, but you have to discard a card or pay extra 2 when she enters, and she's got ward, discard a card or pay 2. Black Widow, double agent, the Orzhov 3/2 with Death Touch, and when you attack with only one creature, gains first strike and menace. Spider-Man to the rescue, which rescues your things. 3 mana flash in Selesnya Hybrid. Vigilance Reach, and when it enters, you may tap. Spider-Man to the rescue, and when you do, another target non-attacking creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. So good for blocking or good for having a free to Vigilance Reach. And we have Iron Man, Master of Machines, which gives some hope to the blue-red deck. The signpost is actually good. It's the support for the signpost that maybe is not so great. Okay, so we can move on to the last section of the seminar, and that's going to be looking through each color pair and give you the initial impressions of maybe what are the best cards at common and uncommon, what are the hidden gems, which are the cards I arbitrarily selected based on certain, maybe that I think that they are not so intuitively good, or maybe because I think that they are underdrafted, or maybe they show something interesting about the color pair. And same thing, traps. Cards that maybe look like they are made for a certain archetype, but are not performing very well, or maybe are overplayed despite not performing well. Because if they're overplayed, there is a good chance that you might be also playing those too. And we start with the most powerful, because I think that these are the most obvious colors, so we don't have to focus. And then we move on progressively to the less performing archetypes, because there maybe are the things that can be found to improve how you play them. I think that I understand why people force the best color pair remorselessly in the beginning of the format. I get it, and sometimes I do it when I think that this is the way to do. Most of the formats try to avoid doing that, because what I like to use my early format is to expand my range. And I know that I'm losing win rate points on that, because if I was forcing Azorius every draft, I would have probably had a higher win rate. I'm not crying in this format. So far, I'm at 65%, which is pretty good, especially that I'm uncannily for myself, I'm in Mythic as well. So normally I just don't have time to get to Mythic, but somehow this time I did. So 65% Mythic is not nothing to complain, but I think that I always have a higher win rate late in the format, because I build up the range and then I can draft literally anything and I'm not limited. And when you get too much used to forcing the best color pair, when it dries out somewhere after week 2-3, you are running into trouble and you don't know what to do. Anyway, another tangent aside, let's move to the Azorius. Best common, shockingly to no one, hero in training, 64.5% win rate. Card is broken, you should be picking it very highly. It's just so good. Hidden gem for this, and a card that impressed me quite a lot, is Raft Security Officer. 2 mana for a 1/3, 2 tap target creature. It costs 1 less if it targets a creature with power 3 or less. So removal is not plentiful in this set. And because of that, this is a removal, sort of. And also, it's annoying, but no one wants to point the removal at the raft security officer themselves, because, well, that means you lost one removal that you can target on something else. And some removal doesn't work at it because you will very rarely put it in combat situations. So, for example, like Helicarrier Strike cannot work. So I've been very impressed. The 3 toughness is relevant, and it's been annoying both when I played against it and it was impressive when I played with it. So I highly recommend adjusting it a bit higher than you normally would do a 2 mana 1/3 tapper. Card that disappointed me and also does not impress in the win rate data is Agents of Shield. 3 mana 2/4. When a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It's just you will rarely attack alone in those Azorius decks. And that means that the card doesn't work much. It's just basically a vanilla 2/4. So not that great. And if I want that effect, I'd rather get myself the Shield Spike It, which does very similar thing, but it's cheaper. You can play it on turn 1, and you can move it around as you please. And the power boost is always there, and you get another bonus if you attack alone, if that's the case, but you always will get the power boost. So there you go. Also, it's a big number with stature, because it pumps stature and then it can be blocked. So don't fall into that trap, please. In terms of uncommons, Justice is by far the best uncommon, 67.5%. Mana War with flying is great. Who knew? Interesting gem I selected is the Avengers Tower. And this is a symptom, I think. Every single one of those 3 lands, Avengers Tower, Baxter Tower, and the Villainous Lair, all of them are extremely important. And if you go to 17 lands and you look at each color pair's results at uncommon, you can look at which land has the highest win rate of those 3 in the given color pair, and this will, I think, give you a good impression of what this color pair is trying to do. We will see in a second that in Selesnya, Baxter Tower is actually the hidden gem I selected because it has the highest win rate, because Selesnya will have the bigger creatures, so power 4 that the Baxter Tower has as a requirement to draw a card is not a problem, which means that you basically have a land that taps to draw a card. Azorius does not have enough 4 power creatures for Baxter Tower to be good, but Avengers Tower is doing a very good job of giving you that card advantage late. I told you that card advantage is not easy to come by, and this Avengers Tower is fantastic for that. Not to mention that if you are splashing, it helps you to get an extra splash. Also, I used it to get my achievement on Arena of playing 50 spiders. I built like a trashy standard spider deck, and I realized that all the spiders, basically all the spiders in legal and standards are also heroes for some reason. So you could play Avengers Tower as your 3rd version of Cavern of Souls. So yeah, hooray me. I could play Cosmic Spider-Man because of that. Avengers Tower gets picked pretty early for an uncommon, but not as early as it probably should be. Still, it's a really powerful card, and it should be probably picked a bit higher. Trap I selected is Echo, Perceptive Prodigy. It's not like it's terrible. It still has 57.5% win rate. It's just, compared to the background of 60% win rate for Azorius in general, it's an under average card that gets played a lot and gets picked relatively early. Echo is a 3 mana 1/4 vigilance, 1 and tap, copy target activated triggered ability you control from a creature source. You may choose new targets for the copy. It can be pretty good, and I'm pretty sure that there are decks where it's better than not, but I think it's just not a universally good card, and you should treat it as such. Okay, then we move to Selesnya. Best common in Selesnya is actually Murdoch's Crusade. A bit shocking. It's not the only, I think, white color pair where Hero in Training is not the best card, which is still pretty great. But worth noting that Murdoch's Crusade is the best card in this set. 61.3. The hidden gem I selected is Shield Spike It, and this has been my personal experience as well, that this card was excellent. I trophied basically on the back of building a board of big chunky reach creatures and then attacking with one of them with Shield Spike It, which put my opponent between the choice of triple blocking or double blocking my big creature, and then I get a 2-for-1. And normally it wouldn't have been a 2-for-1 if I didn't have the Shield Spike It equipped. And of course, they were always risking if I had take up the shield or any kind of combat trick that would have been completely killing. Any explanation why for the Crusade being that good in white-green? Because I think that it deals very well with small creatures because of the size of the green creatures in the set. And what it doesn't deal very well with is other big creatures. So if you can remove other big creatures with Murdoch's Crusade, or those bomby enchantments that also are the case, then Murdoch's Crusade is going to do exactly that. Yeah, so I think that Shield Spike It is a good pattern of certain type of Selesnya deck. They are not super aggressive down to earth decks. These are the decks that want to utilize the Skrull the best, and it Skrull into 4-drop very early, ramp with the mana, make those things that are already big even slightly bigger, and Shield Spike It will let you finish the game by making them even bigger and therefore almost impossible to block efficiently. And you sort of get those virtual 2-for-1s when they have to trade 2 creatures to kill one of yours, and you have more of those big creatures lined up, and they will run out of steam eventually. The trap I selected is the Knights of Wundagore. 2 mana, 2/1 with trample, and when you put a +1/+1 counter on another creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This ability triggers only once each turn. There's just not enough support for the counter synergies most of the time, and people put it in decks where they shouldn't, and I think that costs. There will be once in a blue moon a deck that is exactly right for Knight of Wundagore, but it's not coming together, I think, often enough. In terms of the uncommons, the best one is Political Triumph, the plan that we've talked about, 62.3. But very close behind, we have the Baxter Building at 62.1. So almost the best uncommon, Baxter Building. And again, this is indicative of the plan for Selesnya being, I want to put those massive creatures on board. And if I run out of steam, Baxter Building is going to catch me up. A trap I selected is Supervillain Lockup. And again, I think that this is a card indicative of the plan. If you have big reach creatures, no one is attacking you. So Supervillain Lockup is not going to be very useful a lot of the time. So it's going to rot in your hand for a long time. So yeah, I think that's the reason. Again, not a terrible card at 55.3, but that's below the average for the color pair. And this must be indicative of that plan that I tell you. I mean, there are possible explanations that are alternative to what I said, but this links to the Shield Spike It being good, Baxter Building being good, Murdoch's Crusade being good. All those things sort of link into that picture of I want to be playing big rich creatures and deal with it. Okay, let's move to Simic, and the top Simic common is Trickster's Stratagem at absolutely mind-boggling 63.4%. Just how important that card is cannot be overstated. Hidden gem I selected is Rapid Rescue, which is I think the second best common in Simic, or maybe third, but thereabouts at 62.3. Rapid Rescue, we didn't talk about this card just yet. Green, instant, mill to cards, you may put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand, you gain 2 life. This set is filled with permanent cards. You will very often have decks with 34 permanents. If you have 34 permanents, this is nothing that like it's not out of the realm of imagination. If you have 34 permanents in the deck, Your chance of hitting with this card is 98.6. 1.4% to fail. And the failure is, of course, sad. And I think that maybe in the future they should make some kind of a sweetened close on that if you miss, like if you don't return, gain 4 life instead or something. But 1.6% failure of hitting is not much. 75% you will have a selection. So you hit 2 permanents and you can choose which one you want to return to your hand. Yeah, it's basically like a 1 mana cantrip. And then a lot of the time it's a 1 mana sleight of hand, sort of. Card is pretty good in Simic specifically. And the trap is another time I selected Knight of Wundagore because Simic is specifically looking at +1/+1 counter synergies, and even then you don't get enough of that to make the card good. 55.7 again is not a disqualifying number, but I wanted to select something that is relevant for the color pair and played quite a lot. Of course, I could select lower win rate cards, but since very few people are playing them already, I assume that this is common knowledge that those cards are not great, and sometimes when the draft doesn't go your way, you're going to put it in. So I wanted to focus on cards that are actively being played because people think they might be good. Uncommon Justice, surprisingly, 66.6, the number of the decimal beast. Card is still busted. And Baxter Building is the hidden gem, which again makes me think that this is the deck that you want to be playing bigger creatures. Because it prioritizes Baxter Building has better number than Avengers Tower. In my head, it works like this. If I have bigger creatures, I want to be playing Baxter Tower. If I'm playing smaller creatures that are heroes, I want to be playing Avengers Tower. And if I'm playing villains, I want to be playing Villain's Lair. And then you can check which archetypes have which one as their hidden gem. I stopped selecting those after that, but I think that in every single color pair, these could be selected as a hidden gem because they have a low play rate, which might be related to the fact that they are distributed across multiple archetypes. So that's potentially one reason. But Baxter Building, Young Sherko wore leather jacket, had long hair, and had a metal band. Yes, definitely. And has been to Iron Maiden multiple times as well. The trap I selected is Ant-Man Colony Commander because that's the signpost uncommon for the set, for the color pair. 56.1% is again not horrible, but this is the signpost. It should be what you are supposed to be doing, and it doesn't seem to be working. We move to Orzhov, hero in training, top common, blah blah blah, whatever. What I liked about it is the hidden gem, Stolen Stark deck, 58.4. And it seems like attacking with one is partially a theme there, but there is a secondary theme of equipment as well. This card is good with both of those things because, first of all, Stolen Stark tech allows you to attack with one creature and then trade it up. It's basically take up the shield but in equipment, and later can, any further attacks that you do with your one creature, it becomes bigger and bigger. Second of all, there are several black cards that have equipment synergies that may be like flying around the table. And I think that Stolen Stark deck is an indicator to me that this should be the kind of an idea of what you try to be doing in this set. And let's look at because of course I don't remember any names, because I'm not getting paid for that. There is Ronin Shadow Infiltrator, 3 mana 3/3. You can basically cast this equipment for free. And also you can sacrifice your equipment and to kill things, basically. There is Swordsman, Sharp Scoundrel, the 2/2 creature that lets you equip for free whenever a villain enters the battlefield. And then whenever equipped creature you control attacks, you connive. There is the John Walker, the agent, that has the equipment theme. There is Whiplash, Vengeful Engineer, 1 mana 2/2. Whenever it attacks, and Whiplash is equipped. You drain each opponent for the number of equipments attached to Whiplash, stuff like that. And Winter Soldier, Icy Assassin, a rare that has Vigilance, Menace, and when Winter Soldier gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to him, and you can sort of reanimate it for 5 on its own and gets Finality counter. So there's this like small amount of black equipment synergies that you can build into a white shell by getting those black cards late because no one wants to draft black anymore, and getting the good white because white is so plentiful. The trap I selected is Hydra Troopers, a very much hyped card. I also thought it might be actually quite good, but it turns out it's not. Most of the time it's a 3 mana 3/2 mill 2, and that mill doesn't give you much, I think. There is not much graveyard recursion. You don't utilize it well. I think the card design is great if it was in a different set. Put this card in Final Fantasy, I probably would have loved it. Although probably Hydra Troopers would not fit with the Final Fantasy, you might need to rename it. Apart from that, it would have been great there because there was plenty of the stuff to do with the graveyard. If you go turn 2 Town Greeter into turn 3 Hydra Troopers, you are amazing. But in this set, it just doesn't work. And it's sad because it's a well-designed card. It's just a well-designed card for a badly selected set. And it's going to be a trap in multiple other archetypes, including Golgari, where technically having 2 creatures in the graveyard is a theme. So pretty sad for me that's the case. Best uncommon in this color combination, Agent Maria Hill, which again also points me to one thing, that this is probably the most aggressive of the archetypes, maybe together with the white-red. 61% win rate. There are just good teamwork spells in white and in black that you could utilize, including things like the Widow's Kiss, whatever it's called. Oh, God. I hate my memory of card names. Cruel Alliance will definitely have the teamwork too, and you want to be casting it. Helicarrier Strike, Widow's Bite, you can use those spells, and also you want to have the 1 mana 2/1. Villainous Hideout is the hidden gem, so this archetype actually probably benefits more from the villain synergies than from the hero synergies. The trap I selected is White Widow, free agent, hero villain. It only has 55% win rate. I can't quite explain it because I found that this card was pretty good, but turns out it's not pretty good overall. So I will still continue watching that card because I think that maybe it's just a small variance and its actually win rate is closer to being fine rather than being a bit below fine. But people are playing it a lot, so the sample size is quite good and the win rate is 55. Okay, Boros. Believe it or not, Hero in Training is the top common, so let's not discuss it. It's a 61%. Hidden Gem I selected is Borrow Backup at 59%, which is not far behind Hero in Training. I've been very impressed by that card. Borrow Backup works very well with a lot of things, including Okoye, including splashing, including whatever really. Heroes entering battlefield, whatever. 5 mana for 6/4 of stats across 2 bodies with Vigilance. That's pretty good. And it works particularly well with Boros. What doesn't work in Boros is Blazing Crescendo, which technically should be the card that should be working in this archetype, because on paper you should be targeting your stuff. And I think that people that go all in into targeting your own stuff theme are tanking the win rate of that archetype. If you look at the win rates of cards in white-red, which I will right now, at the bottom of it we have a bunch of those things that are technically on the plan with that. We have where is it? Well, Blazing Crescendo and Super Speed, the two spells that can target in red. Panther Pounce at the bottom of the commons. Agent of Atlas, the prowess dork, is at 54%. At the top we have Hero in Training, Web Up, Murdoch's Crusade, Borrow Backup, Helicarrier Strike, Take Up the Shield, Brave Brawler, Herbie. These are the top, at least at common cards. At the bottom of the uncommons, we have Mockingbird, for example. The 4-mana 2/2, the double striker that gets +1/+1 counter when you cast a spell that targets a creature you control. Iron Fist, the thing that gains tap, it deals damage equal to its power to any other target when you cast a spell that targets a creature you control. I think that you just don't have enough things that can target creatures you control. And that's why it suffers. On the other hand, you have things like Jessica Jones and Agent Maria Hill, which are quite good, and as we're going to see in a second, or Photon Blast Barrage, or Spider-Woman, or Okoyadora, Agent 13. What you want to be doing is a sort of grindy mid-range deck rather than this finicky combo. Double Strike Trick is also not very high in terms of win rate. And I can tell you, because I tried and I trophied with it, you can build the deck that does the targeting your own stuff. It's just that probably you don't want to do it for the wrong reason of having just some combat tricks, because they're not good. That's the problem. I did it on the back of getting a couple of Iron Fists and actually making a good use out of them. And I think that it's a shame, because if it said if a creature you control becomes a target of spell or ability, this archetype would have been one of the strongest things to do in the format. But because you restrict that ability from abilities, there is not enough spells that can target something. As I said, Jessica Jones is the top uncommon for this color combination at 63%. Well, anyway, it's 60.6. That's the important part, not 63. 63 was a bit too high. Jessica Jones, just allowing you to accrue value over the game. This is exactly what you want to be doing in this thing. And then, because you're drawing so many things, you can cast more spells, you can put the borrow backups, you can put Okoyas and other things into that, and just overflow your opponent with card advantage thanks to things like Jessica Jones. Avengers Tower is the hidden gem I selected, because that means that white-red should focus on heroes, and there's plenty of heroes in the red. What I selected as a trap is Thor Odinson, 5 mana 4/4 flying vigilance prowess. 55% is not disqualifying by any means, but it's definitely below average. It's not a be-all end-all card, and also I think it's symptomatic that people will be more likely to play it when they try to do the combat tricky kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that it's good just as a 4/4 flying vigilance prowess when you have few spells and you don't need to put combat tricks. And I think that if you will exclude people that try to build it as the WotC advises you to build the deck, the win rate on that card is going to go up. Because again, removal is not plentiful, which means the 4/4 flyer might sneak through the cracks. But because you try to build this finicky combo deck and forget about building down-to-earth mid-range deck, you're going to be losing a bit more. Particularly because if you put multiple combat tricks, you reduce the number of threats. If you reduce the number of threats, the probability of Thor dropping on board and meeting a removal is going to be higher than if you play mid-range threats and forget about the combat tricks. Okay, in terms of Golgari, best common is the Undercover Skrull at 60%. Hidden gem I selected is Herbie Scout Unit. I mentioned briefly, but again, 4 mana 2/1 flyer. When it enters, draw a card, and then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. 57.7 for that shows me that, again, Golgari wants to have value game and wants to accrue that value. Herbie is also pretty decent in terms of blocking the most of the important flyers in the set. and getting you card advantage and ramp. Trap I selected is Hydra Troopers. It's again not a horrendous number, 54%. Golgari has a lower win rate than the previously discussed archetypes. But this is the card for this archetype and still doesn't even crack the average win rate of this color pair, which makes me think the card is just not very good. Uncommons, we got the Killmonger as the top uncommon at 60.7. We discussed Killmonger already. And then the hidden gem I selected, it's not very hidden, but and it was very hard to find something in the small sample size of Golgari that was close to hidden gem. But I did select Madame Musk, 5 mana at 59.3% win rate, not far behind Killmonger. And that sort of leans me to the conclusion that Golgari is a villain color. And if you look at which land has the highest win rate from those, 58.2% villainous hideout. You know what I should probably select it as a hidden gem was Baron Strucker, Hydra Overlord. This card has not so great win rate in most decks, but in black-green it has a pretty respectful 58%. So maybe that should have been. But Villainous Lair is definitely the top of the lands in that color pair. And I told you that which land is best in which color pair is going to be a very good determinant of what that color pair wants to be doing. Trap I selected is Titania. It is the hybrid card for that color pair, but only has 55% win rate, which puts it somewhere in the middle of the field, basically. That should be 55.9, by the way, which is slightly better. But still, this is not impressive at all compared to the other cards. I mainly selected her because other cards are just underplayed, maybe, and quite obviously not so good. Well, this one is played quite a lot. Not bad, but definitely not amazing. The top card is Cruel Alliance, the removal spell with teamwork that can exile things. 60.7. And this makes me think that Dimir can be a good deck. If we look at the color pair win rates, Dimir is here at 54.7. I'm pretty sure that Dimir over time can go into this group if you draft it correctly. Potentially mainly based on Power of Blue. And then I think that the hidden gem for that color pair is telling me exactly what you want to be doing. And the trap is telling me what you don't want to be doing. I think Dimir is a flyers deck. I think that Dimir flying is a valid strategy. There are cards that can go in it that are going to be extremely good. And now I can go to UP just to see a couple of the cards that are doing particularly well in this color combination. Some of them might be even surprising to you. What do you think? Which land is the best in Dimir, chat? But yeah, giant-sized flying ant is my hidden gem at 59%, and the trap I selected is Atlantean Cavalry at 53.4%. Atlantean Cavalry is a common that does what this archetype is supposed to be doing, drawing a second card, and then it grows. 53. Giant-sized flying ant is just a 4-mana 3/2 flyer that can tap something when it enters or untap something when it enters. A great tempo play, basically. In terms of looking at the uncommons, Justice is the top uncommon at 63, with Killmonger very close behind it at 62.5, because it's super easy to splash and it's very good. Trap is Moonstone, something that would pay off for connive triggers. No, it's Villainous Lair. Why are you even guessing at fixing lands when you can guess the connive land? Hello. Chat is trolling me. Have some mercy on me. My chat is trolling me. So Moonstone having 52% win rate shows that, and the Atlantean Cavalry 53 sort of suggests that those draw 2 synergies are not what you want to be looking at. But then when you look at the best commons and uncommons of this particular card, you have Falcon, Herbie, Shield Deployment Drone, Stature, Giant-sized Flying Ant. What is this there? Quite high on the list is Hydra Infiltration and Yellow Jacket, Heartless Marauder. Those cards have very good win rates, and yet the color pair does not have a good win rate. And I think this is because people get detracted from the actual plan that Dimir should be having. The actual plan that Dimir should be having was, my removal deals with things that can block my stuff and things that are proper threats, and I will have removal because I'm in black. My creatures are unblockable because they fly. Weirdly, Ghost is not a good card in this color combination. Turns out that 2/2 flash unblockable is not good enough. It's not horrendous, but it's not amazing either. And yeah, things like Agents of Hydra, those small kind of ground creatures, not doing particularly well. But yeah, I think that you want to be starting to build your Dimir as a flying and removal. And Snow on a Cactus. I'm talking about canonical builds. You mentioned I've had some good artifact Dimir decks. I believe that that's a very distinct possibility. Data will be very far stretched at this stage of the format to find those kind of insights. But if you found a good artifact Dimir build, I trust you, and I believe that this is a very probable situation. I didn't even think about those because, again, I was focusing on what the data is telling me. I think that every archetype in this particular set can be built in a variety of ways, and some of them will be generically good, like I think that the Dimir Flyers will be. Some of them will be very dependent on the playstyle and capability of making plans. Snow on a Cactus, if you have a good plan for the Dimir artifact decks, use it. Also, you can DM me some pics of the list so I can spoil your secret strategy with the others. But I think that goes for every archetype. I will be hearing that from a lot of you during the episodes for this set that, oh, I actually found reproducibly that I've built some sort of plan and it worked very well, and I'm using it because cards are open for it. This is, I think, something that is going to be the most skill testing part of this format. This is not the kind of a format that, oh, I learned my top 5 archetypes and I'm just going to draft them and build them. I think that you will be extremely highly rewarded with the deep understanding of the format in this particular one. Ptum. Let's move to Is It. Top common, Shield Deployment Drone, 60% roughly. Hidden Gem, I didn't have anything to select, so I selected Surveillance Room being at 57, which suggests to me that you want to be splashing things into that. I don't know what exactly you want to be splashing. Is it going to be artifacts, or is it just going to be white cards because white is busted? I don't see anything in the data that would suggest me. Let's maybe have to put rares. I still don't see anything in the data that would suggest me what needs to be splashed here, because probably sample sizes are not large enough, but Surveillance Land tells me that some splashing was being done and it was actually moderately successful. The trap I selected is the Machinesmith Automaton, 3 mana, 2/2 trample. Whenever another artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. 52.7. I've played against this card several times, and there were 2 categories of games. One, that card was doing nothing, and I just ignored it. Or 2, that card was doing something, and then I knew that it's going to be doing something, and I killed it. Never ever was it impactful. And I think that the issue is that after the Machinesmith Automaton, there's not that many big threats, which means that all my big removal can focus on this Automaton, and I know that the rest of the thing is not going to be, bothering me, unless someone has Thor or something. So I just killed the Machinesmith automaton and moved on with my life, and their 1/3s and 1/2s were not a big threat, especially in the decks that I'm building. Scientist Supreme, is that the one with olives? I know what you mean. The black blue rare 2/2 pay to life copy triggered ability of an artifact or something. Yeah, and that seems like a good splash. Although 2-drop is a bit painful, but I guess it's a utility 2-drop. You don't plan to put it in combat anyway. Best uncommon was still Justice at 60%. The card is still busted. Oh, Moongirl, good splash. That's a very good splash. And you know, sometimes it's funny. Like I think in black-red. Oh no, it was in white-blue actually. Asgardian Citadel, the Boros Tapland, was the 3rd highest win rate common. And I'm like thinking, okay, someone opened the Civil War, and just the Civil War's presence and correlation of Asgardian Citadel and having the Civil War in your deck bumped it into a 3rd best common in the set, in the best color pair. Anyway. Trap I selected is Thirst for Knowledge because that card is technically designed for the artifact deck. Draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact. Card draw is not very present in the set, and still Thirst for Knowledge only 50% win rate, which is sad. I didn't even bother selecting a hidden gem. I don't think anything was particularly hidden. All the cards that were good were quite obviously good. There was nothing that surprised me. Okay, we move to Gruul, and in Gruul, the best thing is Gruul at 56, which is not much. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing good I can say about Gruul, really. You open Wolverine, play it in your white-green deck, or in your some other deck, some deck with the scroll that can basically, oh, blue-green. These are the decks you want to be playing your Wolverine in. Gruul doesn't seem to have a body, a philosophy, a plan that seems to be working. I didn't find the gem at common. Repulsor Blast was my trap at 50% win rate. That's the 4-mana deal 5. It's a sad picture, to be fair, when you look at the win rates of commons of the Gruul decks. We have Scroll at 56. Surveillance Room at 56, which means best thing is to splash something that is not red. And then Go Nuts at 56, and then Pet Avengers at 55.5. And then a bunch of medium things. I mean, maybe Pet Avengers and Hulk Smash and Lightning Strike sort of make the core list of the stuff that is okay. But we're talking about 55% win rate commons here. And at uncommon, it's not getting much better. Khazar is actually fine at 59. And then She-Hulk is at 58. And then we have Photon Blast Barrage and Punishing Patch and Red Hulk at 57-ish. And then Jessica Jones at 56. And that's about it, really. That's about it. So I assume that literally Wolverine is the only really strong card at 64. Sample size is a bit small though. So a lot of rares just don't have a sample size. In fact, Alien Invasion is the only one that has a sample size, and this one is at 54.3. That's the enchantment that makes 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Which is a bit surprising to me that it's so low, but I guess it is what it is. So yeah, this one needs more sample size in order to talk more about it, but it doesn't look very promising. Wonder Man, Hollywood Hero, by the way, is my trap. I selected 50% win rate. This is technically something to do in the Power Up archetype, when you can activate Power Up the second time, and they made a joke in the reminder text. So it's the Shadowfax of the set, basically. But 50% win rate is not impressive at all. Okay, so we move to Rakdos, and the best common is 55% win rate, Cruel Alliance. And this is not great numbers whatsoever. And it only gets worse from there, because when you look at it, after the Cruel Alliance, the second best common is the Hell's Kitchen, the dual land at 54. And then Lightning Strike at 54. And then Hour of Defeat, another removal at 53. The problem with this color combination is just the quality of creatures. Red Room Recruit is 53, the best creature. Hydra Assault Robot, the 1/3, is again at 52. But there's nothing else. Like, all the bottom stuff is creatures, and they're just so bad. Machinesmith Automaton, 44%. Hire a Crew, the sort of combat tricky villain thing, 47. Deathlock Soldier, the 1 mana artifact you can get back from graveyard, 48. Stark Industries Executive, 48. Ultron Drone, 48. It's like horrendous numbers on those creatures. And it doesn't get that much better at Uncommon, because at Uncommon we have Dark Deed at 57, and Titania, which sort of looks okay, at 57 too. But further than that, you got Baron Strucker, which is fine, Madame Mask, which is fine, Claw, which is fine, but a bunch of 54s like Abomination, Whiplash, Crossbones, Moonstone, the Masters of Evil, the Villain Lord with 6 mana, 5/6. That one is 53. It just probably drops on the board too late when the board is clogged and the bonus doesn't help that much. And also is going to be the first target of removal, because the rest of your stuff is painfully small, and because of that can be ignored. Yeah, I mean, a lot of do nothing stuff. It's just like, I think that what the design team made as a mistake is that they put villain on a lot of creatures while giving them niche synergy abilities of other color pairs. And that means that villain's deck is going to be a sort of kaleidoscope of different villains that none of them work towards a common goal. And this is unfortunate. Now, there are some cards that probably should put you into drafting the deck. As I said, Avengers: Under Siege is 66%. I'm pretty sure Doctor Doom is there and about. Ruinous Wrecking Crew has a 61% win rate. Elektra has 61% win rate. Super Skrull is around 60. These are the cards that should maybe direct you in there. But you can play them in other Black-Vert decks that probably do better. Avengers: Under Siege and Ruinous Wrecking Crew specifically are good payoffs for playing Black-Red. But again, both cards easily splashable. Particular painful Robot Domination, 4 mana plan. That whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you draw a card, lose 1 life, and put a plan counter on this. And then after you get the third one, you make 3 robots. There are 2/2s. This card has 46.7% win rate as an uncommon. It's shocking how low those win rates are. So Rakdos is probably badly designed, which is weird, because last time we had a set with that much color imbalance, Rakdos was the best thing. So the tables have turned. But I think that puts us to the end of today's episode. We looked through all the archetypes, we looked through all the colors, we looked at the best cards, we looked at the general plans. Hopefully, what I think is important, we identified a couple of interesting archetypes. I think that the Dimir Flyers is a good one to start experimenting on. I think that Selesnya Chunky Beasts is an interesting plan to start looking at. And I think that by now you know that Hero in Training might be a bit too good for its own benefit. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and then next week we're going to go deeper and try to make sure that we find the right card for the right home, because the sample sizes are going to be that bigger when I can actually make that kind of an analysis. And then I'm going to start to prepare to pack for my Pro Tour trip. So there might be a short break in recording, as I'm going to be in Amsterdam trying to qualify for the limited qualifier, and also trying to catch up with other content creators and the pros. But with that, I'll see you next week. Bye bye.